All right, let's talk about a term that is just everywhere these days, artificial intelligence. I mean, it's powering our phones, it's writing our emails, but what is it really? Let's break it down.
So, I want you to think for a second. When you hear those two letters, AI, what's the very first thing that pops into your mind? Is it some helpful assistant on your phone, or is it something a little more dramatic?
Because let's be honest, for a lot of us, our whole idea of AI was shaped by the movies. You know, self-aware robots, global takeovers, the Terminator, the Matrix, you name it. But the AI we actually live with every single day, it's way quieter. It's that Google search that just gets what you mean. It's Netflix knowing exactly what you want to binge watch next. It's Siri and Alexa. And that massive gap right there between sci-fi and reality, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
Okay, so to really get a handle on artificial intelligence, we've got to rewind. We need to go back to the very beginning and ask a fundamental question. What were the people who invented this stuff even trying to build in the first place? What was the goal?
And you can pretty much trace the entire field back to this one simple but totally profound question. It came from the legendary Alan Turing way back in 1950. He didn't ask, can machines calculate? We already knew they could do that. He asked, can machines think? That changed everything.
Then, just 6 years later, a guy named John McCarthy actually gives it a name, artificial intelligence. And for him, the mission was crystal clear. It was about making computers behave like humans. The whole focus was on mimicking our actions.
And then another giant in the field, Marvin Minsky, he came along and added this really crucial twist. He said, look, let's think about the function. It's about making machines do stuff that, if a person did it, we'd all agree, yep, that takes intelligence.
So as time went on, researchers took all these early ideas and organized them into this really brilliant little chart. They realized that basically every approach to AI was trying to do one of four things. You're either trying to get a machine to think or to act. And you're trying to get it to do that either like a human would or in a perfectly rational, logical way. Suddenly you've got a map for the whole field.
So if those are the four destinations on the map, how did people actually try to get there? Well, it turns out there wasn't just one path. Nope, there were a few very different and often competing ideas about the right way to build a smart machine.
Over the decades, three main schools of thought really took shape, and they guided almost all of AI development: symbolism, connectionism, and behaviorism.
First up, you've got symbolism. People sometimes call this good old-fashioned AI. The core idea here is that intelligence is all about logic. You know, humans use reason by manipulating symbols and rules in our heads, so why can't we just program a computer to do the exact same thing? This was the thinking behind all those early expert systems.
But then, a completely different idea came along: connectionism. This approach said, forget modeling logic. Why don't we try to model the brain itself? This is all about creating artificial neural networks, and it is the direct ancestor of the deep learning that powers so much of today's AI. It's just using these massive, layered networks to find patterns in tons of data.
And the third school, behaviorism, took another turn. They basically argued, who cares what's happening on the inside? For them, real intelligence just emerges from interacting with the world. You perceive something, you act, and you learn from what happens. Just think of a little robot learning to solve a maze by simple trial and error. Now, the path from all these big ideas to the apps on your phone today, well, it was anything but a straight line. Honestly, it's been a total roller coaster, filled with these massive waves of excitement, followed by devastating crashes, and then these sudden breakthroughs that changed everything. Yeah, this whole journey had this wild up and down rhythm. It kicks off in the 50s with so much hype and optimism, but the progress just couldn't keep up with the promises, which led to the first AI winner in the 70s. Funding just vanished. Then it roars back to life in the 80s with the expert systems boom, only for that bubble to burst too, leading to a second, even colder winter. The slow thaw really began in the late 90s, especially after IBM's Deep Blue beat the world chess champion, a huge symbolic win. And then, right around 2010, the whole thing just goes vertical, kicking off the insane explosion of progress we're all living through right now.
And just to give you an idea of how long some of this has been bubbling under the surface, we think of self-driving cars as this super modern thing, right? Well, get this. This Mercedes van was driving itself down the road autonomously way back in 1986, right in the middle of that first big AI boom.
So, what was it? What was the spark that finally lit the fuse on this current explosion?
After all those decades of booms and busts, what made the last 10 years so different?
Well, a really crucial moment happened in 2011. Now, it might not sound like a big deal, but this was a huge turning point. A neural network hit 99.46% accuracy recognizing traffic signs. The key part? That was actually better than human performance. For the very first time, a machine could see and understand a complex set of images with superhuman accuracy. And if that was the first crack in the dam, this was the flood. In 2016, Google's AlphaGo beat the world champion of Go. Now, Go is an infinitely more complex, more intuitive game than chess. I mean, experts were saying this was decades away. It was a shock, and it proved that AI could master not just logic, but something that looks an awful lot like intuition. So what was happening behind the scenes? It was really a perfect storm. First, the big tech companies started releasing these incredibly powerful software toolkits, like TensorFlow and PyTorch, for free. At the same time, cloud computing gave everyone access to almost unlimited horsepower. And of course, the internet gave us the oceans of data needed to train these models. All of a sudden, the tools, the power, and the data were there for anyone with a clever idea.
And that entire history, all the different philosophies, the cold AI winters, the breakthroughs in seeing and playing games, it all led directly to this moment, November 2022. The launch of ChatGPT, which put all of that incredible power right into our hands and kicked off the massive global conversation we are all a part of right now.
So when you step back and look at it, in a ridiculously short amount of time, AI has learned to see better than us, to play games we thought were uniquely human, and now to talk with us. It really just leaves you with one big, fascinating question. What on earth is it going to learn to do next?